Okay, my wonderful friends, this is Roger Spur, Mudfossil University. I discovered mud fossils, which are creatures turned to stone, just like this goose, and I have many others, and I have had some of them CAT scanned and DNA certified, and they are human, and some of them are giants. Now, the first person that wrote about our ancient past was Ovid, and he wrote about metamorphosis, which is the transformation of creatures into stone. And here's exactly what he says. It says, I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Well, that's kind of vague. It says, accompanying this theme is often violence. Well, that's not vague. Inflicted upon a victim whose transformation, change, becomes part of the natural landscape. That's what I've been showing for years. And nobody could ever imagine this to be true until Mudfossils proves it. It's possible. Now, let's look at the evidence that shows it. And then, because I know Ovid is extremely valid now, and he has an unbelievable amount of work. And we are going to start right with the creation, because I believe he understood the creation, and I believe it's exactly what he's saying. Chaos, and then the ages of mankind, the flood, I know about that. Deucalion, who is Noah. Pyra is his wife. It goes right down through the whole entire beginning of the earth and how all of these players interacted to get to where we are now. And he ended up, he was born a year after Julius Caesar died, I think, right in that area. Anyway, we got a lot of work to do. I want to go through all this whole thing. We're going to look through everything. So subscribe. Tell everybody you know to subscribe. Keep following this. I'm going to start right off with the creation. The next one is going to be about the creation. How did this all happen? Where was the earth flat at one time? Everybody's, oh, the earth was flat. Well, guess what? I think it was flat at one time. And even as I was watching NASA, I think it was, well, let me see if I can find a clip. They claim, well, they understand accretion. If you ever understand a spinning, spiraling, chaotic swirl of material, it's flat. It's not big and round. And eventually, if it concusses enough with what's around it, it condenses and heats up and condenses, and then poof, it turns around, and at that time it rains, and that's when we had the flood, Deucalion, Pyra. We got lots to work on. Okay, my wonderful inquisitive friends, you want to know about our history? Let's talk about our history. This is what happened, and Hesiod and Ovid specifically wrote about it in Metamorphoses. But you can see, this is red blood, this is tendinous material, which is from the tendon, which is identical to what's in you. Plus, this is the structural part of an arm, which is your muscle and your bone area in the center and so forth, which this was a creature that was turned into a statue. All right, it's extremely obvious what I just showed you. The red fleshy muscle stuff erodes and all rots away, but the tendon is tough as it can be. It's considered CaCO3, calcium carbonates. And they were literally limestone. And when I say they're literally limestone, that's the stuff that's really tough on Earth. And then this turns really into mud. The red fleshy stuff, which has a lot of bloody, oozy sort of sarcomeres, are very, very broken up little tiny bits and pieces. And they go along with the blood and they turn into clay. I personally have this on my property, which is a giant fingertip. That's the fingernail. That's the blood, the vein and artery that supply this. And if you look at the hand of Hercules or something Hercules, there's a fingertip, and you'll see the same blood vessels in there, where it's cracked, where it bends over. I think it was a real creature, and a lot of them were real. And they turned these giants into landscape. It says, that's exactly what it says in Ovid, Metamorphoses. Now, that's where the bone was. This I broke off, and it has the fingerprints underneath. I'll show you. And it was sent off for DNA testing. When you break off and you see the blood vessels, you can go up inside the artery and take the blood and send it off. I mean, it's not really like blood. It's more or less of a particulate. But blood is absolutely, unbelievably tenacious. It lasts forever. If you think I'm kidding about blood lasting forever, this lung I had DNA certified. And I was the one that removed the DNA samples. And I drilled a hole in here somewhere, I think it was right in behind here, up into where the red bloody spot was. I took that stuff, put it in, I was very careful the way I did. I'm not a moron, I just did it correctly. And I sent it off. This one here, it was underneath the mud. When they impact in mud, in the correct conditions, it has to be the right pH, a lot of conditions have to be right. But this is a lung. These are the alveoli of the lung. Here they are right there. Right? Now, what is this? This is blood that gushed out of that lung. It's all over the place in these mud fossils. And I have so much more to show you that shows that literally everything is biology. Okay, my friends, this is supposedly was made like in the 1500s. Well, maybe they were doing the 1500s. I don't know, but I can tell you what. This was a giant, and this is kaolin clays, which are your facial skin clays. And it's emitting some reddish biology here and there. And then if you look at the leg, you're going to see there's an arterial area, or, a blood vessel area over here. And wherever you see red and black, it's vein and artery blood. And he's got things growing out of his legs, growing out of they grow out of blood supplies. And, they made these things pretty well to last. I mean, they lasted a pretty long time, but they're starting to deteriorate now. They're falling apart. Okay, my friends, I had a little bit of an idea. I hope it works out. Maybe you people can give me some ideas if this is a good idea or not. I was going to, instead of just me spouting off, here's all the things I think, I think I have a pretty good understanding of the ancient things that a lot of people have dismissed. Now, I don't understand the Bible at all. Very, very little. Although I do believe that there was terrible gods and then there was good gods, and the one I want to find is the good God, and it appears that his son was Jesus Christ. And he came to try to get us out of this mess that we're in, and it didn't work. And some people went the wrong way, most of them, it looks like to me. So anyway, I have a friend that is extremely knowledgeable about every bit of the Bible and all of its implications from the Christian viewpoint, which I have no viewpoint, because I have no viewpoint of this at all. This is all new to me. So don't think I'm a big hero here. I have no idea about what I'm doing at this point. All I'm doing is doing evidence. And then we all go about our own separate ways of thinking. Now, if I just want to find out what was real and what wasn't real. Some of this stuff is kind of scary. I can't deny that at all. And I don't want to deny anybody's religion or make them feel bad about what they're thinking or make them feel good about what they're thinking or whatever. I just want to find out reality. And then that's up to you how you deal with reality. But not to know reality and to just lead your life in walking around in circles. I don't think that's a good idea. Some people like it. Ignorance is bliss. And it really honestly is, because I'm tell you right now, this information is a burden. It is not liberating. It is a burden. I'm telling you right now, I think you'll find that out. Maybe by now it's not as much. 10 years ago, I'm going to tell you right now, it was not a fun place to be. Anyway, we're going to see if we can go through all of these ancient texts, and Ovid specifically. We're going to start with the creation because it talks about the chaos, exactly the same thing it talks about in the Bible, and all of the ancient texts talk about the same thing in different sort of terminology, different ways. But it all is about the Gaia and the earth and the separation of the light from the waters below, and the earth turning into a ball and raining of a flood when that happens, just like condensation. And that's when everything drowned. And God had to know about that long before, because he told Noah, build a boat. And everybody was laughing at him because it never rained. It had never rained. A lot of people don't know that. It never rained on the earth at this point. It was a very foggy mist, which means there was a lot of moisture in the air, and it was a swirling disk, which I believe was semi-flattish, and all of a sudden it kept swirling into what's crushing it, which is exactly what's happening now. The earth is being crushed. But back then it was a flat disk, and as it spun, just like the arms of the Milky Way are being bent back, and all of a sudden one day it says, this is just too much pressure for our molecules of water to stay in a vapor. Poof! Turned into a ball. Water gushed everywhere. And because condensation happens just like that. And boom, it turned into a water world. And Noah already had his boat. So God had to know ahead of time. He says, okay, on Thursday it's going to rain like hell because there's just too much pressure. The thing is being... And the same thing, our scientists today don't even have a clue why our atmosphere is the way it is. They think it's a blanket of CO2. Absolutely not. The Earth is spinning within the particles of space, scrubbing just like the tires on the road. 2,700 degrees out here, 80 degrees on its surface. Obviously, it's rubbing. Same thing on the corona of the sun. Millions out here are way out past the sun. On the surface, 6,000, 7,000 degrees. That's scrubbing against all the other particles here. These are particles trying to escape the sun, and they're being forced back into the sun by what it's scrubbing against. That's why it goes millions of degrees. We have so much to discuss. The new school's starting. We're going to start out with the basic. We're going to get into chemistry. We're going to get into our actual creation history. We're not going to laugh at any of this. And we're not going to laugh at anybody who has any opinions now on anything. I mean, I am going to laugh at people who say the space station doesn't exist. Yes, because the space station is obviously there. There's things that people want. They were so desperate to want to find God that they would say that the Earth is flat now, and so we have to say there's no such a thing as a space station. Now, I had to block a lot of those people. I didn't want to do it, but it was unbelievable amount of intense attack. Please don't do that again. Take my word for it. If you would, please, or if you don't, I don't care, but don't attack me. The Earth now has formed a ball. I believe it was flat at one time. Chaos, swirling chaos, swirling. Even the ancient text said that birds had to be careful they didn't get too high to mix in with the swirling mess that was above, because the atmosphere would be just above the surface, basically. And they might have been able to think they could build a tower up to the gods way back then when the Earth was flat. I have no idea. I don't have any idea if the Earth was flat. These are the things we need to discuss, but we can't just discuss them in a closet by ourselves and pretend none of this stuff ever happened. Something happened here that we have no clue about, and until we start investigating it, we will just be entirely clueless and walking around giggling. Well, I don't do that a lot. Although actually I do. Okay, I really do. I giggle a lot. Because if you lived in the world I live in, you'd giggle all day long. Every time I see somebody say, oh, we know this, oh, that's absolutely certain. They have not looked at the things that underlie the things that they have accepted. They have read a lot of books, and now they're educated. Well, I don't go that route. We're going to go to learn. Nobody educates anybody. If you don't learn for yourself and take it in and process it and scrutinize it, not just say, oh, okay, Well, that's a metamorphic, whatever, it was a tree. I mean, like this right here. They say, well, that's feldspar. I say, yes, it is. Only it's a covering of a lung, which is the covering of all organic molecules and things. And my point is, we've always accepted, the first thing they say to you is go get educated, go to college, go to university, and read the books those people read. Well, now we know, they tell us, forget about gods, forget about all these myths. There's nothing but a gigantic big bang of nothing exploding into everything, then getting smart. Of course, it had to congeal in these perfect little globs, which we have no clue about. They're so lost about everything. That's the most simple-minded response you could ever get. And they say it with the most intense amount of arrogance. Time for that to stop, he said arrogantly.